What's up, you guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about one of the most legendary virtuosos on the guitar out there, Mr. Eric Johnson. And this is actually almost like a part 2 or a revision to an older video that you can find up here, where I'm also talking about different concepts and techniques that Eric Johnson likes to use. Now, before I get on to the actual lesson, I want to invite you guys over to my Patreon account. If you want to jam out to the backing track right at the beginning of the video, or if you want to see the different notation to a lot of the patterns that I'm going to be talking about during the video, you can find those on Patreon. Now, the first thing I want to talk about within the actual lesson is one of the most obvious ones, and that's Eric Johnson's pentatonic work. I'm going to be talking about different types of moves that he likes to employ when playing or moving around the fretboard. And the first one of those is going to be note groupings. So I'm going to be talking about groupings of 4, groupings of 5, and groupings of 6, and different ways of applying those different groupings, so it's not going to be applied on the same fashion every single time. The first type of application is just going to be straight up vertical, so this can be applied over just one pattern of the pentatonic scale, just going up from the first strings over to the 6th string in a vertical type of fashion. The second types of groupings that I want to show you guys is in a more vertical fashion. And then we can start looking for different ways or variations that we can start applying those different groupings. So the first specific movement I want to talk about is the 2 and 3 extended pentatonic type of formation. And this is just going to look something like this. More than just helping out the distribution of notes, it helps to move around the neck. And if you add a couple more permutations, it's going to help you sound a lot more like Eric Johnson. The next type of pentatonic movement I want to talk about is the 2-2 adjacent strings type of movement. When I say 2 and 2, it's just 2 notes on the one string and then 2 notes on the next string. The other important thing for this pattern is that it has a cool sweeping motion. It's not going to be the traditional alternate picking. So it's just going to go 2 on the 3rd string, 2 on the 4th string, 2 on the 3rd string, 2 on the 4th string, and it's going to move in a horizontal fashion. Now, something important to look at is the use of the right hand in a more sweeping fashion. So on the 3rd string, we're just going to be doing down up, exactly the same as if we were applying alternate picking. But in this case, we're going to switch to the 4th string again with an upstroke. So it's going to be down up on the 3rd string and then up down on the 4th string. What this is going to do is create a type of cycle of picking on those different patterns. And that's going to look something like this. The next type of move is going to be for a 5-note type of grouping, and it's going to be a 3-2 type of grouping. It's going to be 3 notes on the 1st string and 2 notes on the 2nd string. You're going to begin the movement again with a sweep, starting with an upstroke. So you're going to get up, down, up on the 1st string and then up, down on the 2nd string. Next, we're going to have another grouping of 5, and it's going to be 1 note on the 1st string, 3 notes on the 2nd string, and 1 note on the 3rd string. So you can look at it as a grouping of 1, 3, and 1. Now, this Kulik I'm going to show you guys comes from a good friend of mine, Pedrito Torres, who actually helped out with the creation of this video. He's even sent me a video explaining some of the different moves that Eric Johnson likes to do. So I want to say a huge thank you to Pedrito Torres. So in this lick, I'm just employing most of the moves that I showed you guys, including some 5-note groupings, some 4-note groupings, just so that you can see that you don't just have to do 5-note groupings or 6-note groupings or 4-note groupings. You can actually mix them up into different lines. Now, the final pentatonic move I want to show you guys is a cascading type of pentatonic move. It's going to be using some sweeping, and it's just going to be going up the pattern with some sweeping. It's going to look like this. Okay, so the next concept I want to talk about that actually employs or uses the pentatonic scale is pentatonic weaving. This is actually a concept that I wrote a book on, and it's called The Art of Scale Weaving. So if you want to find out more about this, you can check out the book on the description box below. Now, scale weaving is nothing more than just a different way of looking at two different concepts over in one fashion. In this case, we're looking at the major scale and the pentatonic scale, both laced together. The pentatonic scale actually fits within the major scale. And it's just a matter of visualizing that pentatonic scale or the notes of the pentatonic scale within the major scale. So first we have the pentatonic scale that looks like this. Then we have the major scale, which looks like this. And then we can start visualizing both those concepts together. It's going to look something like this. If you take notice, what I did is mostly at the beginning I did some pentatonic runs. I added one note from the major scale, and then I finished the line with some more pentatonic notes. Now that we're done with the scale weaving, I want to talk about different triads and arpeggios that Eric Johnson likes to use. The first arpeggio I'm going to talk about is the dominant 11th arpeggio. Now this arpeggio has an invalid construction of 1, 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. Cool thing about this arpeggio is that it has a very distinct type of tonality. And different guys like obviously Eric Johnson, but Joe Bonamassa and even Osnoy enjoy playing this type of arpeggio. It looks and sounds like this. Next, I'm going to be talking about different triads and different application of these triads. Now, instead of just playing 1, 3, and 5 in the normal triad fashion, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Let's go 1, 5, and 3. Sounds like this. Now, a very similar thing can be done with different 7th arpeggios. And again, we're going to be applying that 1, 5, and 3 motion. But then after the 3, we add a 7th. It's going to look something like this. Now, both of those concepts can be applied using the harmonized scale. And this is nothing more than the different chords that show up within the major scale, or at least in this case, within the major scale. So we're going to have 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant 7, 6 minor 7, and 7 minor 7 flat 5. You can actually practice these different types of triads on arpeggios using that specific type of order, or you can practice it over different chord progressions. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys is a pretty cool type of arpeggio that sort of looks and sounds like one of those fifths movements that Steve Vai likes to do a lot. But in this case, it begins with some straight out fifths, and then it ends up into a more scalar type of move. Now, if we were to look at it in a valid construction, we would have 1, 5, 1, and then it goes either 3, 2, or 2, 3. You can switch it up however you like. For the actual performance at the beginning of the video, I went 1, 5, 1, 3, 2. But again, you can switch it up. Alright, so that's it for this video. Remember, you can check out the first part of this video right up here. If you want to follow me on any type of social media, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Patreon now, and I'm obviously on YouTube. Well, while on the topic, I want to thank my patrons, Jose Morales and James Swartz, for helping make this video happen throughout their support on Patreon. If you want to take one-on-one lessons, you can head over to my website, juanantoniomusic.com. You can find a whole bunch of different offerings there. You can also find my book, The Art of Scale Weaving, which I mentioned earlier in the video, and my 2 different instructional box sets with the guys from Guitar Tutorials. Right, thanks for watching.